Welcome to Luminous Enlightenment. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am your host, Brittany, and today's going to be kind of a long episode just because of the fact that in order to explain everything, I am going to have to kind of go into various different aspects of the point that we're going to be talking about today. And that point is how sound frequencies and vibrations can actually affect us. Whether we're conscious of it or unconscious of it, our bodies and our minds are constantly being affected by things in our environment and around us. And each one of us has our own core frequency. We have our own frequency that we resonate at, kind of like if you think of a radio station. So we're kind of like little antennas, we're like little radio stations, each individual and each unique. However, if we experience something in our outer world and it affects us on an internal level, it can cause things to become out of sync. So it can cause the cells within our body to become out of sync. It can cause things within our body to happen that most of the time we're unaware of until it stems into disease. So that is dis-ease in the body because we haven't worked through something that affected us in our external environment on an internal level. So once we start realizing, oh my gosh, okay, I'm not feeling well, I don't know what happened or what's going on, we can kind of go inside. We can start looking inside and we can start seeing, okay, well, I experienced XYZ and that really upset me. And I haven't been able to forgive that person or forgive that thing. I haven't been able to thoroughly process this emotion or this situation that occurred. And I'm kind of holding it inside. You know, we can kind of keep these things that we experience trapped inside of our bodies. And when we keep these energies trapped inside of our bodies, that's when we create disharmony within our body. And so when we experience disharmony in our body, like I mentioned, it can cause disease. So we start to experience physical ailments, whether you're hurting, you're in pain, something is going on with our bodies that we don't quite understand. Most of the time, because we live in the Western world and we're so used to the medical industry, doctors, things like that. Not saying that they're not useful because doctors are absolutely amazing. Doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, therapists, all of that stuff. It's all encompassing. It's all absolutely amazing. And sometimes we get to a point when we do go to our doctors, and doctors are kind of like, we've ran all the tests, we've done all the things, but we don't know, or maybe it's just, okay, well, this is just what it is, and you're just going to have to deal with it for the rest of your life. I'm here to tell you that you have a choice in the end. You really do have a choice. You have a choice to work through and process what's going on within our bodies, what's going on within your body, or we accept it. So there are times where we get diagnoses or things from doctors and the medical industry, and we just choose to accept it. However, there are a good handful of us as well that can tend to not accept it, can tend to be like, no, that's not it. I know it's something else, or no, that there's got to be another route or another way to heal myself. And we can actually look to more Eastern ways of healing. A lot of individuals will say that it's not scientifically proven, it's not enough research has been done, this and that, blah, blah, blah. But you'll hear the stories. You will hear the experiences that people have gone through when they've been diagnosed with something. I've heard numerous stories where people have been diagnosed with cancer and that's it, right? Like a lot of us would think once we are diagnosed with cancer, it's the end of our lives. But I'm here to tell you that I have actually heard stories of those individuals that have been diagnosed with this, detrimental disease. When they took the time to go inside, to look inside, they found that it was connected to anger. Doctors have actually seen this phenomenon as well, and we consider it a miracle, right? Like, this is a miracle. You completely went into remission, or you completely are cancer free, and we don't know what happened. We don't know what you did. We're not seeing any signs of anything. It's really made the medical industry kind of start to rethink the way that we think about health and we think about wellness and we think about how our bodies are actually affected by things that we can tend to dismiss and not work through. And we just hold on to these detrimental things that we experience and not forgive or let go or release. We hold on to them. And then it causes this disruption within our bodies and our minds. Some of these stories that I have heard from doctors mainly has to deal with forgiveness. So a lot of the times we hold on to anger and frustration and we don't forgive and we don't release. And some of the stories that doctors have talked about, a patient is diagnosed with, cancer or a life-threatening disease. And because it's the end, because patients are thinking that this is the end, I'm going to die. Like, this is it. They've been able to sit down and forgive those that had wronged them. They've been able to work through the things and the anger or frustrations or things like that that they didn't necessarily know how to work through up until their diagnosis. And when they were able to release it and forgive and to just move forward, they started watching funny videos. They started enjoying life again. They started living life like every day could be their last day. They made a huge change in the chemical compositions and makeups within their bodies, which can cause certain individuals to go into remission, to release what it was that was causing the disease in their bodies in the first place. A lot of doctors will actually tell their patients when they get a diagnosis that they should find the joy in life again. They should watch happy movies, comedy, do things that make them laugh, do things that make them smile, do things that brings joy in their lives. And when we take the time to do that, it means that we're actually raising our core frequency. So when we take the time to enjoy life, to laugh, to joke, to watch funny movies, to watch, the funny things or the cute things or anything that's on a lighter level, it raises our frequency. It raises our core frequency and it helps to bring our body back in alignment and back in tune with our resonating frequency or a resonant frequency, because we all have our own individual, unique resonant frequencies. So when we do this, we open up the capacity and the ability to change the chemical makeup and the chemical compositions within our bodies. I really feel like the medical industry is becoming more aware of this. They're starting to see miracles happen more often. They're starting to look into more things like physical therapy, moving the body, getting the body to flow, to move. They're starting to point you in directions of acupuncture. They're starting to point you in directions of more holistic health and healing services and practices. This is because doctors are starting to see the beneficial effects that they have on the body. Now, I am an individual who experienced disease and I was very unhealthy. I was in pain. I was not doing well. I felt like I was dying. I was not in a good place mentally or physically. And when I started taking the time to take a step back and I started looking into more Eastern practices, Eastern medicines, because I wasn't getting helped by our medical industry here in the Western world. I was being told that they didn't know what was going on. They saw that I was having a lot of inflammation within my gut. They saw that I was having these issues, but they couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was. And so I knew I had to go within. I had to start asking the questions to myself and asking myself, okay, what do I need to do to help myself feel better? There's got to be something. I'm tired of taking these various prescriptions and medications that have numerous side effects, which I know there's individuals just like me who see the benefit of medications and things like that, but also are pulled in another direction knowing that there's got to be something more. There's got to be something else, especially with all the side effects these different types of medications can cause. Medications are, they just kind of alleviate symptoms, but they're not a cure. They're not something that's going to help cure us. The only things that we can really look towards to help cure ourselves is ourselves. We know what's best for us individually on an individual level. I feel like the medical industry here in the Western world does everything that they can to help us, to ease our symptoms, to ease our pains, to help us live more comfortably in our lives. But it doesn't really give us the answers. And I personally think and believe that we know that answer ourselves. When we look outside of ourselves to get those answers, it's never truly answered. It's never truly what we want to hear or what we're seeking, what we're looking for. So when we feel that way, it's because our higher selves knows that that's not quite the answer that we need. Our higher selves knows knows us best, knows what's going on within our bodies, and we just need to take the time to listen to that a little bit more. There's actually a lot of services out there when it comes to sound and frequency healing, and we're going to talk a little bit about this as well because I know that a lot of people are like, oh, it's woo woo, scientific evidence or research that goes into how this helps our bodies and how it brings us back into alignment and blah blah blah. But I'm here to tell you that Eastern medicine does practice these types of things, and it does help bring the body back into alignment. It does help the body release the things that need to be released. It helps the body tune back into its core resonant frequency and helps our cells within our bodies express healthy cells instead of, the disease and stuff that we're feeling and that we're experiencing. So, I'm here to tell you that you believe that it's woo woo and there's just not enough scientific evidence. That's totally okay. We are all entitled to our own beliefs and our own perspective. I have firsthand witnessed accounts of how sound healing can really help us and it can be super beneficial. I am actually certified with the Complementary Medical Association in sound healing as well. And I have seen my clients experience some profound changes within their own mental and emotional well being. We are made of what, 70% water, right? So if our bodies are made up of majority water, we can kind of start to put together the pieces of how sound and frequency can affect us. So if we look at water, or better yet, let's look at cymatics. So cymatics is the effect that sound has on matter. And if you look this up on Google, it's really amazing to see the different patterns that can be made with specific sounds and frequencies. And actually, there was a study that was done. Basically, this study that was conducted using water. So basically, what these students did at this university and what this doctor did at the university was they took water and they took one thing of water and they took another thing of water, and one of the waters, they talked badly to it. They talked down to it. They talked trash to it. They said whatever mean and nasty things to this water. And they took the other water and they started pouring love into it. They started pouring happiness into it. They started being grateful and thankful for the water. Oh, they took this water and they froze the water. And they froze the water and they started looking under a microscope at the structures of the water. They started seeing that what they were doing had an effect on the water. So the water that was talked negatively to actually showed like distortion within the structure of the water. And the water that was loved and shown gratitude actually formed these really beautiful crystals. Now, you can look up this study on Google as well. It's absolutely amazing to see how just words and thought and intention directed at just that water made a difference in the structure and composition of just water. And so if that makes a difference when it comes to water, then what kind of a difference is it making towards our bodies, right? Like, again, we are made up of 70% water. So when we're talked down to, when we're bullied or made fun of, or we're experiencing these projections of negativity from our outside world, it can have an impact and it can have an effect within our bodies. And then our cells will start producing these incoherent frequencies within our bodies, because it's just responding to what we're experiencing within our outer environment, showing more love and gratitude. When we're in an environment where we're experiencing a lot of love and a lot of gratitude and joy and happiness, our bodies and our cells will respond accordingly. Our bodies and our cells will continue to resonate at our core frequency and continue to provide us with health and healing and things like that. Same thing when it comes to our words and our intentions. Our words do have meaning, whether we think they do or not. They do. And when we use words of kindness and care and compassion and love, then we're uplifting not only ourselves, but society and our communities around us. When we start using negative words and negative things, we're impacting our surroundings, we're impacting ourselves, we're impacting the world around us. And so it's, in my opinion, in my view, it's safe to say that when we're in an environment where we're experiencing a lot of negativity, it's going to cause a disruption within our own health and well being. And so, in order to bring ourselves back into alignment, we have to take the initiative to do so, whether that's going to see the doctor, talking to a therapist, going to counseling, or taking the time to meditate or have practices such as sound healing or energy healing. Now, everything is made of energy. Everything. And I'm not the first person to tell you this because we've heard doctors' studies and things like that. They've talked about everything is made of matter. Everything is made of energy. We are made of matter. We are made of energy. So everything exists all at once. You don't have to be here in person in order to experience an energy healing or sound healing or anything like that. You just have to be intentionally there. You have to have the intention of healing yourself, healing your mind, your body, your soul, and you will experience the benefits of sound healing or energy healing. Another thing too is acupuncture. Acupuncture is a really great way as well to bring the body back into alignment. So acupuncture has really in-depth information as far as the meridian lines in our bodies, chakra points, things like that. Eastern medicine has done a really great job of breaking all of this stuff down. However, if you are scared of needles or you don't prefer needles, then maybe something like physical therapy, counseling, sound healing, energy healing, and meditation. I know a lot of people can sometimes have a hard time with meditation. We have this expectation that we're supposed to look like little Buddhas, sitting there in complete peace, utter peace and silence, and that's it. Like they're just able to get on that level of peace and silence that maybe a lot of us are not used to. We're not used to experiencing our mind being silent. But I'm here to tell you that meditation is kind of a step-by-step process. You're not going to become a master overnight. That's just not how it works with anything. You don't start something and become a master the next day at it, right? It's all a process. It's all giving ourselves grace and patience. And it's becoming more aware and acknowledging those thoughts that are coming into our brain. So when we take the time to sit down and meditate and we have thoughts coming into our brain, we have the conscious awareness of seeing those thoughts or hearing those thoughts, but releasing them. You become the observer. So when you start to become the observer and you observe these thoughts that are entering your mind, you have the ability to either A, latch onto them, or to B, release them. When we start getting better and better at acknowledging them, seeing them for what they are, and releasing them, we start to see our mind become more quiet. We start to see our mind become more peaceful, and we can get to a state of being the observer of what it is that we are experiencing. When we get to the point of being the observer, that's when we have dialed in our meditation. I don't want people to become discouraged and a lot of people do, I've found, they start to become discouraged because they have all these thoughts coming into their brain and they're just so not used to sitting in peace and quiet. But I'm here to tell you, once you start to regulate your body, once you start to regulate those thought patterns, to get more in alignment with ourselves, we can start releasing. Then we can start being the true observer of our reality. So meditating is a practice. And again, I don't want you to become discouraged if you are somebody who is interested in meditating. I want you to know that this is normal. It's normal to start off meditation and to find yourself in your thoughts, to find yourself in that kind of thinking mode. But just know that you are not your thoughts. Your thoughts are just, they're things that come into our mind, and we have the ability to either hold on to them or to just release them and let them go. The other thing that I've found when it comes to meditation is knowing how to ground. So, the best way that I've found when it comes to practicing meditation is to imagine yourself when you sit down, take a few deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. And when you breathe in, you're going to want to expand your tummy. And when you breathe out, you're going to want to contract your tummy. So, do this a few times, just in and out. And then envision a light, just a bright kind of like spotlight coming down through your body, down into the ground. And when you start to envision this in your mind's eye, use your imagination. You can think of this bright white light just coming down through your body and into the ground. And when you start grounding yourself and you start envisioning this process and you focus more on your breath and your breathing, those thoughts won't enter as much. You won't have as much mental chatter when you're solely focusing on the light that's shining down upon you, going into the ground, and you're observing your breathing. And when you start to just focus on these things, then slowly but surely you will start to become better and better and better. And again, everything takes practice, right? Everything takes time. So don't give yourself grief. If you have a day where just all these thoughts are entering your mind, that's okay too. Sometimes it helps to just get out and be in nature. Nature is very grounding to be around, to be in. And a lot of cultures would actually walk around barefoot outside. They would put their feet in the grass, put their feet on the ground, because this helps ground our bodies. This helps transmute energies within our bodies that may not be the most helpful. It helps us clear our minds. It helps us to be more of the observer of our reality than in our mind and in our thoughts. Don't get discouraged. It's all a practice. It all takes time. Before you know it, if you continue to keep the practice and you continue to focus on this, and it doesn't have to be long either. There are some people who can meditate for hours. I know some people who could only meditate for maybe 5 minutes, and all of it's okay. That's okay. You don't have to be somebody who meditates for hours upon hours or minutes upon minutes. Just as long as you're taking the time to sit with yourself and to be the observer of your reality and to reaffirm that you're safe and you're okay, and everything that you think is important to think about in that moment that you're sitting with yourself, it's really not that important. It's really not as important as you're making it. What's truly and really important is that you're taking that time for yourself. You're taking that time to sit with yourself and just be the observer of your reality. The other thing that I found too that changes our resonant frequency is being in a space of gratitude. So when you're taking that moment to sit with yourself, start envisioning things that you're grateful for, to start really feeling that energy and that vibration of gratitude. And that's going to make things so much better on so many levels. When we start coming from a place of gratitude, we start complaining less. We stop negatively talking about all the things that bother us and all the things that bug us in our life. And we actually start finding more gratitude in the things that maybe before they used to bother us and they used to bug us. You're coming more from a place of being the observer and not really judging the situation, or you're finding a more positive perspective on the situation that maybe you used to find in a more negative perspective. When we come from a place of gratitude, that's when we become the creators of our life. That's when the universe and our reality starts to open up synchronicities, starts to open up all the various opportunities within our lives. And that's when we start to experience more of the magic. So when we start taking the time to be more grateful, and you could be grateful for anything, right? Anything. You can be grateful for the fact that you woke up today and that you're breathing. You could be grateful for the fact that you have, clothes on your body, or that you're in a healthy state of being. There's numerous things in our lives, our daily lives, that we can be grateful for. And even just taking 5 minutes out of our day to have and find that gratitude is going to make some huge changes and impacts in our lives. And we're going to start to see that come to fruition as time goes on. Now, Now, we do live in a place of limitation. And so sometimes it's going to take a little bit of time for that to actually manifest in our outer world. So when we are feeling things on the inside and we're envisioning this wonderful, beautiful life, it's just going to take a little bit of time for that to start becoming our reality, for us to start experiencing that reality. And it's totally possible. And sometimes what we envision it to be doesn't always turn out the way that we envisioned it. Sometimes it turns out 100 times better than we envisioned it. Sometimes we start to realize, oh my gosh, I totally had this mental picture of this one thing, but I ended up getting this. And that was so much greater than like what I had even thought of. That's kind of how our reality in manifestation works. We're constantly manifesting, whether we realize it or not. We're constantly manifesting things in our reality. And so if we're on a negative, lower vibration, that's the reality we're going to continue to experience. If we're on a higher level of vibration and love and joy and positivity, not toxic positivity, actual positivity, then we'll start to experience that within our lives. And there's others in my environment that come from a space of gratitude and love and acceptance and joy, how they just continue to keep manifesting connections and community and synchronicities and opportunities and just all of these things that to them it's just natural because this is just their natural state of being. So they're constantly manifesting and attracting these things because it's a natural part of who they are. However, when we come from a state of not being so grateful and we complain and we find all the reasons why it's the outer world's problem and not our problem, and we start putting it off onto others and not actually taking accountability for ourselves in the way that we think about things, the universe responds accordingly. So the universe and our reality, God, if you want to call it God, is going to respond accordingly. There is no bias. There's no bias. There's no judgment. It's just more on a quantum physics level. And so all of this information that I'm giving you today actually reminds me a lot of like Nikola Tesla and Einstein and all of these great minds, very intelligent for their time. They had no idea that their intelligence and their experiments and their blueprints for things were going to be used today. Like this day and age. A lot of people back in the day thought Nikola Tesla, was a crackpot. Like they thought he was crazy. They thought that he was just insane. They talked down about him. He was kind of alienated and he was left to do a lot of work and to create these different blueprints and machines and all these different things. He had to keep them to himself. And though a lot of people were interested in his machines and interested in the things that he was producing, a lot of people couldn't comprehend it. They were having a hard time comprehending it. And this is how I feel when it comes to energy healing, sound healing, things like that. Though we know that it's out there, though we know that it has the capacity to heal the mind, the body, the soul, we just have a hard time wrapping our brains around it, right? We just have a hard time comprehending it. And so I'm a true believer that though we have this information now, in quite a few years from now is when people are going to actually start realizing, oh my gosh, like this is true. This is actually something that does exist. This is actually something that so and so was talking about years ago and nobody believed them. Nobody thought that this was a thing. They're really going to start seeing the benefits of energy healing and sound healing, and people are already seeing the benefits of things like acupuncture as well. There are a handful of people who see the benefits of energy healing like Reiki and sound healing like binaural beats or frequency healing, things like that. They're seeing the benefits in their bodies, in their minds, within their souls. Like they're really starting to understand there's so much more to us than just going to the doctors and being diagnosed with something and then that's it, that's the end. We're really starting to see the difference that these other types of modalities can hold when it comes to our health and well-being. It's just as a collective, we haven't gotten there yet. But I do feel as time goes on, we are going to start to recognize and realize that these do have a profound effect on our mental health and our physical health and well-being. I am certified in sound healing. I'm actually also an energy healer as well. So if you'd like to book a session with me, you can do that at my website, luminouslightchanneling.com. You can send me an email at luminouslightchanneling@gmail.com, and we can talk about some ways that we can look into healing our bodies, healing our minds, and healing our souls, so we can start to feel better and we can be there for our family and our friends and to continue to enjoy our lives like we would like to, and not be in pain and not be in dis-ease within our bodies. So I thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this answers some questions. No, again, like a lot of this information that I dropped on you today is a lot to wrap our minds around, but this is why we have the gift of discernment. This is why we have the ability to Google, we have the ability to research, we have the ability to take what resonates and leave what doesn't. There is a lot of research out there when it does come to sound healing, energy healing, and things like that. So I urge you, do your research, look into it, start looking at how our thoughts affect our body, how the things that we experience in our external world can influence and affect our bodies. Start taking the steps and the initiatives to get better if that's what you're looking for and that's what you're wanting in your life. So thank you so much for joining me today on Luminous Enlightenment. I hope this brought some enlightenment to you in your life today, and I will catch you on the next episode. Thank you so much. Love you all. Mwah. Bye.